start the video with you climbing.
I'm just getting comfortable.
Is that what comfort looks like?
Am I doing it wrong?
I didn't know you could do comfort incorrectly, but...
Active rest?
Yeah. They don't know what that means.
Okay, so...
It's okay, she doesn't know.
I honestly don't know. I was looking at this app where it's like you log if you worked out that day or not. And one of the options was like, oh, weightlifting or active rest. And I'm like...
Which also, how do those go together?
I don't know. I'm like, active rest, literally the two words are exact opposites of one another, so I don't understand, but...
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what we were referring to. Now you're in on the joke. It's great.
The joke is not a joke.
The joke is that I still don't understand it, even though I just explained it.
But did you explain it?
No. Hi, welcome to the Midnight Memo. My name is Claire.
And I need a moment. I need a minute to collect myself. I didn't realize... Yeah, I don't want to say it because I feel like usually when I say it, I end up jinxing it. But I'm feeling a little like debauchery, like delusional.
No,
Hopefully that feels this episode.
I'm very serious.
She
just
you. Oh, they can't see your hands. Just like she's like this.
Very serious.
Like gremlin claws. Like I don't know.
Yes.
What did I tell you about your nails earlier? That you were like really mad at me.
Oh my god. So she's like, oh my. Siri, thank you so much, Siri.
Siri, her phone was also in her crotch, so I'm pretty. Siri thinks you're talking out your ass.
I usually do. But anyway, so today, when we were getting ready for the podcast, we were talking about how we want to do new photos for our cover photo. Like right now, it's a kind of like an animated graphic that we had made, but we want to up our game a little bit and actually have a real photo of us. And so we have one of our friends, Aaliyah, who is going to take some pictures of us, and that's what we're going to use. But then Kristen was like, oh, so should I not take off my nails?
Because I've had these fake nails on for like... I put them on before the last wedding I went to, so almost 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, they're like $5 from the drugstore. I will expose myself.
But they look expensive.
But thank you. And so they keep popping off. I just keep re-gluing it on because I had a wedding 2 weeks ago now, and then I just had a wedding yesterday. So I was like, I don't want to buy... My cheap ass did not want to buy new nails. I was like, I'll just use the same one for both occasions. But in between that time, they kept popping off, and I just kept re-gluing them on like a gremlin. And then now they're just like falling apart, looking a little crusty. So I'm like, okay, thank God I just had the wedding yesterday, so I can take these off. And then I realized that we're taking pictures, and I was like, should I take these? Oh, does that mean I can't take these off now? Because I don't want to show my nubs. And Claire just, like, I'm mostly just talking to myself because I'm crazy like that. And Claire just looks up and she goes, how dare you?
Yeah, I felt personally attacked because if you can't see, also we're on video right now, but like if you can't see, my nails are very nub-like, very skin colored. They're not cute, and now I'm like, well, dang it, now I have to get my nails done.
Oh,
I wasn't thinking about it before, and now it's gonna be on the
shucks.
forefront of my mind.
You're welcome.
But also, the press-on nails nowadays, they're really cute.
They're very cute. I mean, these are, well, I don't want to show you guys mine because, again, they are crusty.
I just showed mine.
I
showed them mine.
Which hand looks better? Which hand looks cuter? They're like mostly translucent-ish. It's kind of like the Hailey Bieber thing, but minus the chrome. And then we got the party glitter nail.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my nails right now.
But I'm really dumb because the press-on nails, I didn't know, like it didn't occur to me.
Oh no.
That if it doesn't fit your nail, just file it. I legit just threw the whole kit away.
They also come in like packs of like, at least 28 nails, so you have multiple sizes.
I know, but like some of them just like for the thumb, it's either way too big or way too small. Because like they were like, oh, you want to line it up with the edge of your nail. And I'm like, this one's way too big. Didn't think, it literally just didn't cross my mind that you could file it to the size you needed.
I mean, I will give you the benefit of the doubt. I have only recently learned that, but that's because almost always I can find a nail that fits, maybe not perfectly, but like really damn close, and I'm like, close enough. But you threw the whole kit out.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't use it.
That's a different type of master.
I know.
What did you say earlier?
I was humbled.
So smart, we're stupid.
Like, I'm really smart until I'm dumb.
Yeah, that would be the moment.
Yeah, I also had 2 other moments this week.
What'd you do?
Where I was filling up my Brita filter.
As one does.
As you do. And instead of like my faucet is like one of those extendable ones where I can just like,
it has the long neck boy.
Yeah, so I like put the Brita next to my sink and then use the faucet to like run the water into it. And
as opposed to,
and instead of like when it was full, instead of turning off the water,
no, stop.
I just took the whole thing and went, ah! And then I got water all over my counter, and I'm like, immediately afterwards, I was like, that's so stupid.
I kind of did that. Not that. We had dirty dishes in the sink. They were kind of stacked up, so like half the sink is filled. And the top dish was a bowl, and I had like stale water in my my Yeti that I usually, like my emotional therapy water bottle that I have. I just realized now that it's the same color as my shirt. I would show you, but I can't reach it right now.
Matchy.
Not my favorite color. Anyways, and so I was like, oh, it has stale water, gonna dump it out and then get new water. And I just dumped it out. Happened to be right into the bowl. So all the water went in and right back out.
Yes.
And it got like the back of the sink, the sides, and like luckily nothing went over the counter like onto the floor, but the whole counter was wet. And I just like, as soon as I did it, I saw all the water go out, and I was just like
like, we're here now.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think I was like, welp or something like that, and my partner was like, what'd you do?
I'm like, oh, nothing.
Yeah, I was like, you don't need to worry about it.
Yeah, just gonna go over there and cry a little bit.
I was like, I'm just gonna leave now. Bye.
I've just been humbled, it's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, honestly, if you want to be humbled, go to
Why
get a
would I want
massage. Go get a massage, right? And then it's the transition of when you're laying on your stomach to where you need to flip over and scoot down on the table.
Yeah.
It's kind of embarrassing because all you do is you just have to wiggle. Like,
yeah, because you're underneath the...
Yeah, because
Not
they're like
blanket,
holding the the covers over you so that they don't see you, but then you just have to awkwardly like shimmy your way down the board.
Question for you.
Embarrassing.
Very embarrassing. I was also thinking about this earlier because you just got a massage.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's TMI. You know when they say dress to your comfort or undress to your comfort, I guess, or whatever their words that they use? What do you do?
I remove everything except for my underwear.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's what I do too.
Mm-hmm.
But I was also, it's the bra part where I'm always like, oh, should I leave it on? But then I don't want, that's where all my tension is, you know?
It's true. It's always in my shoulders. And then if they need to move your bra straps around, it's like not as effective.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, when I was younger and like, I think the first massage I ever got, I like kept my bra on because I didn't know.
Yeah.
But
I think the first ever massage I got was for Gab and I for a couples trip for our, unbeknownst to us, puppy moon that we because we got mocha 2 days after that trip and we didn't know. So our unintentional puppy moon that we had, that was the first time we got a massage. And I was like, when they told, like, it was at this really nice spa place, whatever, in Leavenworth, and yeah, they were like, undress to your comfort. And then she just left the room, and I was like, I don't know what that is. Don't know. I've never had to deal with this in my 24 years of
on
life.
sweatshirt and sweatpants.
I know. I was like, what do I do?
I'm like, I'm comfortable now. I don't know.
Yeah, I was like, What do I do?
Yeah.
And I think, we went in the winter too. So I already had like 3 layers of clothes on. And I was like, so just take off the first layer? Or like, what do you mean by this?
I am confused.
Yeah. I was like, I need an example, please. Well, actually, not a visual. I need an explained example. No visual.
Yeah. No visuals, please. That is sexual harassment. Yeah. Thank you so much. But
yeah.
I wonder, because you always hear those spas that like do that stuff. I wonder
like
how,
happy ending ones.
Yeah, like I wonder how.
And how do you know, like,
easy they are to
publicize
find?
it?
I don't know. Because I feel like if you do publicize it, then you could get in trouble for that.
Yeah, I would also think that, but I don't know.
I don't know.
No say.
Anyway.
Anyways, what were we going to talk about today?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I'm just kidding. Today, we were going to kind of talk about and touch on imposter syndrome and confidence.
Wait, I have to do my joke now.
Oh.
To explain our sign.
Intro.
Oh, also, because someone recently pointed... This is so chaotic. I'm so sorry, but I'm also not.
This is what you signed up for when you decided to
listen. But in addition to listening, because this was pointed out to me recently by a friend, we have started uploading Spotify video podcasts as well. So if you are listening on Spotify, there is a video attached. So be sure to check that out, because some of the things we're doing, like explaining our nails or whatever, probably need visual context. So if you're just listening to the audio and you're like, what the fuck are these dumbasses doing? It's probably because it's being referenced in the video. So feel free to check that out.
Yeah.
And if not...
Have a great imagination. I believe in you. You can see the nails in your brain. You can say, yes, Hailey Bieber, I understand.
Yeah. Well, she said.
Yeah.
Anyways. Where was I going with that?
We have a sign. And it has a joke pun.
It has a... So,
on it.
Because we wanted to talk about imposter syndromes, the first thing that came to my mind was, of course, the iconic dad joke of, what do you call a fake noodle?
What?
An imposter. And therefore, our sign says, gasp, imposter.
Dun,
but
dun.
As I was putting the sign together, I was like, do you realize that the way that you say the joke and the way you would have to spell it out, it literally, if I take away this little hyphen in between, again, I'm sorry to the people who aren't watching the video right now. This will eventually be on YouTube, I promise. So you could also come and see it there. It says, I'm pasta. So I was just laughing as I put this together. I was just like, hee hee, I'm pasta. And then Claire was like, should we be eating pasta while we do this? After we literally just had dinner.
Yeah. We had Mexican food. Thanks, bud.
Thanks to Claire's partner who I kicked out so that way we could record this. And then ate his food that he left for Claire.
It was great.
It was really good. Good job. You're coming on. Cooking skills coming along, my guy. Good job.
We love it. Yes. But
anyways.
Anywho, imposter syndrome. I was thinking about this a lot this week.
Yeah.
I think it just has to do with events that are coming up with work and like yearly reviews and all of that stuff. And so it's been very prevalent on my mind, but I also feel like
all the time.
Anyone has it. Yeah. Everyone has it all the time. So why not just like dive a little bit deeper into it? Because I know too that I think we referenced imposter syndrome in early episodes of this podcast.
Something vaguely to that.
We probably skimmed very lightly over it. Like when we were talking about when is too much, or adulting is hard, things like that. But now, because it's kind of come up again, as many things do in life, why not talk about it more, kind of dig deeper? So yeah.
Dig a little deeper. We were referencing a lot of Disney songs before this too.
Yeah.
That's just where we're at tonight.
That's just what is happening tonight.
It's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah. I have a little picture on my phone.
I know. I'm so sorry. My computer, of course. We had our notes pulled up on my computer. And of course, as we started digging into the topic, my computer decided to lock itself. And I have little arms and I cannot reach them from behind the microphones.
Yeah. Oh my God. Have you seen that one video where, again, sorry guys, if you guys should just watch the video, because
This is a not so shameless plug to the videos at this point.
yes, if you're on Spotify, you can watch them, and then hopefully they will be online at a later date.
Yes.
But yeah, guys, have you ever looked at yourself in the camera, leaned back and put your arms back? It makes you look like you have little arms. You're just like, you know? Anyway.
If you weren't convinced to watch this video before, I think you need to, just to see Claire do whatever the fuck.
It's interpretive dance. She's a dancer.
She's a dancer. She's a dancer, darling.
Yes. But yeah, imposter syndrome. I think that, I mean, most of the time whenever it's brought up, like imposter syndrome, it usually has to do with work.
Yeah.
And like, or wherever you're employed, or if you're not employed, school, you know, like stuff like that. And
do they talk about it a lot at your work? Because I feel like when I first joined my company, they talked about it so much. Like we had so many, I don't know if it's trainings, but I guess trainings, kind of like tech talks, whatever. I mean, I was also in a really special program where it was integrated, like almost like classes and lessons along with onboarding and learning the job before we actually started our job. So mine might also be biased to like that developmental track that I was on. But we had so many talks about that. I feel like for the first 2 months of my job, that was all they talked about, is like, oh yeah, don't worry, imposter syndrome's real, you're doing fine, da 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 da, which was very encouraging. But at the same time, I did feel it a little bit then, but I don't think I realized it because I was so like, like everything's happening, and I was just like, okay, yeah, sure, well, that's great, you guys have this culture of being open and honest with and recognizing imposter syndrome. But I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about yet, because I'm like, what's going, like, just so many things were happening. I feel like I didn't have time to process, and I was mostly just learning at that point. It didn't feel like imposter syndrome yet because I wasn't quite working, like the time that the talks were happening and applying it to like my actual work weren't lining up. So it was that. But do they talk about it a lot at your work?
We have like similar like KTSs, we call them, like knowledge transfer sessions.
Okay.
Where we'll have speakers come in and kind of talk about it.
Yeah.
And I think it's the ones we have are like once a year. So it's kind of like if you want a refresher or you weren't feeling it before and now you are, kind of go back to it. Luckily, I don't think it's been like completely shoved down our throats, but like we do have enough like resources to where like if you're feeling it, then you can go talk about it with someone.
That's good.
Yeah. And we do kind of foster an environment where you should really feel open to talk about it to anyone, like our CAs or our career advisors or our coaches or like coworkers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's been really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess also, if you guys don't know what imposter syndrome means, it usually means that you don't think the work that you're contributing is good enough, or you should be acting at a higher level than you are. The work that you're doing is not of a certain standard or value, when most of the time that's completely untrue.
That's the work definition too. I think it can be generalized to just feeling like you don't well, that's actually a loose term. Again, I'm off the cuff right now, but like feeling like you don't belong when you do. So it could be any group that you are a part of technically or classified as, but you feel like, oh, I don't belong here. I'm not worthy to be identified in this group for whatever reason. And it's usually a mental blocker, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Being a woman in tech, which now I'm going to pivot, I feel like sometimes I wasn't taken nearly as seriously in the room. And I think that
definitely
that fuels my imposter syndrome too, of like being the only person working on that team, being my project team of one. Like I would not run the meetings, but it's basically myself and then if I can get my TPM in on that meeting. He was in that meeting, but because he has all those other, trying to work around his basically blocked out schedule, sometimes I would have to run the meetings, and these people, I'd have to coordinate things with people who are way higher up than me. So that's already an imposter syndrome, because I'm trying to ask questions to people who are like 4 or 5 levels above me. And I'm like, I don't know. They'll ask me something, they're like, what about this thing? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just a lowly whatever level. Like, what?
Yeah. Like, being women in tech, I feel like it's already built in that, like, you're at a different level and it's lower than your male counterparts. And your male counterparts, a lot of the time, will also feed into that.
Yeah.
Whether they're like, I remember in college one time, there was like a coding homework problem. And like, I asked someone who was sitting next to me, and like, this wasn't even in class. It wasn't part of a test. It was just like, I have a question. Like, how did you get past this one step? And he, instead of being like, oh, well, like, think of it like this, he literally went way back to the basics. It's like, do you understand what A is?
Stop.
Do you understand? Do you want me to show you how to do this part?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. Like,
that's not what I'm asking here. Like,
yeah. And so it's really hard to come in, like, on top of that too, being like a woman of color. I think as well, you're going into this like white dominated, at least our school, very white male dominated school. Trying in a white male dominated field, trying to make your mark and like improve yourself in a way that, like, I'm also intelligent. I can do everything you can in heels. Thank you so much. And bleeding 5 days a week. Like, what do you want from me?
Right.
And then they just make you feel like you don't belong there. And it's just so frustrating.
Like, they already view. That's the worst part. Is like when you talk to someone else, like a coworker, what would be a peer, whatever, someone else in that group, and then they respond to you in a way that already makes you already feel like you don't belong, like you said. And then when they talk to you and you can hear it in their voice that like they also don't believe you belong there, that just it's like a kick in the balls, man. Like, for like, you already feel like an imposter, and then they fuel that like self-doubt in you by the way they treat you or respond to you or whatever. And then now you're in the rabbit hole all by your lonesome, like, oh, I don't belong here, blah blah blah. It just starts this whole like negative
feedback loop.
Yeah.
It's definitely a loop where it's like, at least from my point of view, it's like, you start somewhere, you feel like you're out of place, so you really try to hustle, improve yourself to slowly start gaining confidence. And then it just takes like that one person to be like, no. To
suddenly
kind of
you're in
like
square one again.
It's a vicious cycle. But yeah, it's like so ingrained, I think, now in society and like work and like even outside of work. Like you had mentioned earlier, imposter syndrome is very prevalent, I think. I think a lot of the times it is talked about in a workplace context. But outside of work too, like if you're, say, moving to a whole new city and like you're trying to make friends and fit in and all of that stuff, and like you just feel a little bit out of place. And it's like really weird to try to get used to that.
I would even think, I don't know why, when you were talking just now, I was thinking about social media imposter syndrome. Of like, you see your friends, your peers, and I don't know if this is necessarily the same thing, because again, we mostly hear it in a workplace setting, but at least like for me, sometimes, I don't know if this is a different type of syndrome in general, but I think definitionally it might fall in imposter syndrome. Like, you see what everyone else is doing, everyone's putting their highlights on social media, whatever, and sometimes if you're not in a good headspace day, or at least for myself, and like I see my other people who I follow, either my actual friends, my peers, or like just people of the same age as me, which already is a bad idea, of like
or people who are younger than you.
That's even like younger. The bad thing is like when I follow like younger celebrities, because then I like see what they're doing and I'm like, God, I wasn't there at 18, 19, whatever the fuck. Like, I'm not even there now. Why am I not doing that? Like, I should be doing this much more or whatever. I don't know if that's necessarily the same thing as imposter syndrome. We might be diving into something completely different there, but like at least specifically like with friends and like people you know and you follow and you see what they're doing at 25, 24. And maybe this is part of the quarter life crisis, actually.
True. What if this podcast is my quarter life crisis?
Actually, that tracks.
Wow.
You found your quarter life
Breakthrough.
crisis. Wow.
Anyway, sorry. Continue.
Yeah, we started talking about this like right after I turned 24, so not quite. I was a year early.
I don't know, guys.
Kind of like
not
I was
living
with
to
the rest.
100.
Stop!
It's gonna be my midlife crisis.
I'm gonna punch her. It's gonna be your midlife crisis because you keep saying that, and I'm gonna punch you.
I'm manifesting.
Stop!
Okay, sorry. Continue.
Too dark. I don't remember what I was saying now. Fuck.
It was like social media, following younger people.
Oh, yeah. I think it's like it just leads to a quarter life crisis of like, oh, my friends are doing this thing. Oh, I should be living it up when I'm in my. It's a back and forth thing too. It's like, okay, you see your friends, like, and I think this now. I'm thinking about it, and I just know the premise of this movie, the Life Both Ways, Love Both Ways, the one with Lily Reinhart, and I think that's what it's about, as far as I can tell. I might totally be lying about this movie too, because I obviously haven't watched it, but I believe from what I saw on like little snippets and trailers, it's about this woman who finds out that she's pregnant, or it's like a split reality multiverse thing. Ooh, throwback to the multiverse theory episode of there's a moment where she has a pregnancy scare, and then this is where it splits off, where the test is positive and the test is negative, and it shows the two different lives she has, like I guess like as a mom, you know, that becomes her life, or going on unfazed of being a mom with the test being negative, and then I think pursuing it, like being more of a career woman. And that's basically the premise of the movie. So I think that's a quarter life. Now that I think about it, I feel like that's our age. Like, oh, that's what people your age are doing now. It's that split. It's becoming more definitive. And I think the pendulum is swinging so far in each direction, where I'll have friends who are like just living it up, you know, whatever that means for them. And I'm like, dang, I'm not living enough of my 20s. I don't even know what that necessarily means. Or I'll see friends who are getting like settled. Like I just said, I went to 2 weddings in the last 10 days. Like getting married, settling down, like building a home life. Not to say that the other isn't, right? But like securing a home life, I guess. I don't know a better way to say that.
Kind of stepping into that next phase.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like, honestly, I do still feel like what you're saying can fall into the category of imposter syndrome, because I think that comparison and imposter syndrome go hand in hand. Yeah. Like we wouldn't feel like imposters if we didn't have an idea of comparison.
That's true.
To hold ourselves up to, like a standard, like at work or like at dance, you know. When you're at like your own level, everyone learns at a different pace and things like that. People have been dancing for way longer than others, and there are people who train on teams in LA. And so it's like, if I were to compare myself to, if you guys know who, like Casey Rice, Sean Liu, who are like 21, but they're amazing LA dancers. If I compare myself to them, obviously I don't feel like I belong. Yeah. You know, but like, I think, comparison just feeds into that imposter syndrome situation. And like, to be honest, like dance for me is another area where imposter syndrome is so strong. Like I can feel so confident one day. And then the next day, if there's just a routine that's not sticking in my brain and I just feel stupid and I can't get the steps and like everyone around me is doing so great, I'm like, maybe I'm not at this level. Maybe I thought I was, but I'm not.
Yeah.
And then it's like having to talk myself out of that rut of, okay, maybe today is not the day, but tomorrow is, you know? So it's like, it's always, it's that inner fight that you have with yourself. You're like, get your shit together. You're not there yet. Oh, everyone goes at their own pace, but you're not there yet. But I can be. Like, it's just like the back and forth that can be like so fucking annoying.
Yeah. And like you said about dance, I remember when I started going to dance with you, that's exactly how I felt. I was like, it was my first time trying hip hop when we started going to classes together, and I was like, this is the type of dance I do. Like, it's something I always wanted to try. That's why, and you like pushed me to like finally go take the classes. You're like, I'm going to these classes, just come with me. And I was like, okay, sure. Like, I've always wanted to do this. Yeah, let's go. And the first class was the roughest thing in the world, just because I was like, this isn't my type of dance. I don't know what I'm doing. Now I'm like watching myself. I like stuck myself all the way in the back of the room because I was like, God forbid, I do not want anyone looking at me. I don't want to have anyone behind me with their eyes on me. I don't want to see myself be at the front of the class where I can see myself in the mirror. Like, absolutely not. I'm staying in this back corner, like not moving. And then we switch lines. So eventually you are forced to like literally confront yourself, like see yourself in the mirror when you're in the front row, and like and then you have to pick apart your like, oh, I hate still now I hate looking at myself in the mirror when we're doing dances, because I will get distracted as I'm doing the routine. If I'm in the back and I don't see anyone, I can be in my own world and I can like remember the routine, I guess. But as soon as I'm at the front and I can see myself, I have the worst issue of like picking myself apart as I'm doing the dance. And I don't know if that's an intention of why we dance with the mirrors there or not, but I'm like watching myself and I'm like, oh God, you look weird. Like, that doesn't look like how the instructor for that lesson is doing it. Oh, that's not, like, your body got stuck on that roll. Like, what, like, it's not correct as I'm doing it. And then I'm like, I fall behind in the routine because I'm just picking myself apart as I'm like every move that I'm doing. Or even worse, I'll look at someone else in the mirror and then I'll be like, oh my God, look, like they look so great at that, or they're doing it correctly. And I was like, oh, that's how that's supposed to look. And then I forget what I'm doing, and then I'm just standing there and I'm like, oh shit, like gotta keep up again.
Yeah.
And is that the intention? Do you know why we look at the mirrors?
For dance, it's usually just to, like look at yourself and see how you're moving in the mirror. However, it's not there intentionally to compare yourself to other people. Yeah. It's mostly just focus on yourself. And like a lot of the times, that's why you'll see some people who want to learn the moves, they'll turn away from the mirror too, to make sure that they have the moves before they focus too much on like how the moves look. Yeah. Or like how they Dougie compared to the person next to them who's dugging, because like you add your own swagger to it, so it obviously it's not gonna look exactly the same, right, but I think honestly dance has in the last year has pushed me to become more confident in myself, which is like, I guess if we're speaking in terms of imposter syndrome, it's kind of like pulling yourself out of that. Okay. So like going from doubting that I'm even like supposed to be at the level of the dancers around me to where now I'm trying not to compare myself as much to them and say like, one instructor came to a class the other day, which, side note, if you're in Seattle and you want to start hip hop dancing, Empire Dance is a great studio that just started by one of our friends, Tati. There's also, it's the tail end of August, so there are a few more summer workshops out there through like Amped, Seattle, and Empire. But yeah, if you want to dance. Shameless plug, you know. But there's an instructor that came to one of the workshops, and he was basically saying like, the only person who puts pressure to learn the routine is you. The only person who gives a time limit to learn the routine is you. Like,
Not true. Classes are an hour long.
not true. It doesn't mean you can't still practice after class is over. So say you don't get the routine in the hour,
Yeah.
but mentally, you only give yourself an hour. And you say, if I don't get in an hour, I don't get it.
Yeah.
But who's to say, like, you can't get it the next morning? Who's to say that you can't continue? And so it's like building up that confidence, I think. And I also recently went to a dance convention, which was in LA, where I was...
How was that?
It was really insane. Like, it was intense because there were so many talented dancers.
Right.
And I'm like, obviously, we're in LA. Like, the dancers are going to be top notch, and they were.
Right.
And so it was super overwhelming, like being surrounded by all the talent in the room and knowing that I'm not at that level and like trying to pick myself up and say, keep going.
Yeah.
Even though I can't do the flips that these kids are doing.
Yeah.
I can't do 10 different pirouette turns.
Yeah.
You know, like, I think after the whole weekend, I learned two things. It's that I'm capable of doing a lot more than I give myself credit for.
Nice.
And I am doing things that are scaring me, which is going to push me to grow.
Yeah.
So, like, we had a mock audition and I was like, I am not doing that. Like, I'm here to vibe. Like, I don't want that pressure. And like, obviously,
But you did it.
yeah. And like, the reason I ended up doing it was because I'm like, I'm so terrified by this that I'm going to do it, because you never
wish
grow.
I had that mentality.
You never grow if you only stay within your comfort zone.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's like, if I want to be a better dancer, if I want to kind of get out of this imposter syndrome of I'm not good enough to be dancing next to these people,
Yeah.
I have to kind of act as if, you know what I mean?
Yeah, fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, which I think a lot of people do.
I think that's basically the whole not problem. I think that's the inverse of imposter syndrome. Like, you don't feel like you belong, so you have to fake it till you make it. Even though you might belong, and you're actually faking it is actually just you doing the literal things that you need to do or should be doing, whatever it is, to like fit into that group. I think those things go hand in hand now that I think about it.
Yeah. And what's funny about, like, circling all the way back, what's funny about imposter syndrome is that, again, you're probably comparing yourself to someone that you hold as the standard, the golden standard of what you should be doing at work, what you should be doing at dance, what you should be doing socially, where you should be in your life, you know, like things like that. You have this golden standard, but then you, in the moment, don't realize that the person you hold at that standard, they're doing that to someone else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they might be your golden standard, like, oh, she's 25, has a house and a dog, and like has a great job, whatever. But then her, maybe she's like, oh, like, this person has like a kid and has multiple real estate and so it's like which again feeds into that huge cycle of like, I'm not at their level, I don't belong at this level.
That comparison game that we were talking about. Yeah.
And so but if you don't realize it in the moment that like other people are just faking it till they make it.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, is that how it's supposed to be? Is that where I'm supposed to be at? And it's like, no, everyone has their own journey. No one said that you need to be married by 25 unless you're holding yourself to that timeline. Then, but no one else is holding you to that standard, which I think a lot of the time we forget when we're in that cycle of comparison, imposter syndrome, lack of confidence, and things like that.
Yeah. That's very true.
Which, by the way, I know I mentioned this to you earlier. If we picture this, you're in the workplace, right? And then
I'm trying to see where this is going.
all of the guys or like male counterparts, they have all of this unearned confidence. Actually, not unearned.
Yeah.
they just have this confidence naturally.
Yeah.
And
it seems natural.
It seems natural.
And I was thinking about that when we were just saying fake it till you make it. I'm like, is that just somehow either through social upbringing or male genes? That's the only things I can relate it to. They have a stronger, I truthfully think it also is in general social upbringing where they have a stronger, and a male can prove me wrong on this, but from what I can tell and what I believe and what I've observed, they have a stronger mental inner dialogue that feeds into the confidence, so there is less self-doubt. And that's where we view it as confidence. One, they might be doing the fake it till you make it, because I have had other peers and like coworkers like, and now I'm actually, no, you go back to your topic and then I'll say what I'm doing. You go. Because what I was gonna say is something that we had already talked about earlier, but people don't have this context. So erase what, I'm so chaotic right now, just go.
It's okay, we'll cut this part. Yeah, so I was thinking about within the workplace, a lot of the times, like I was talking with one of my coworkers,
right,
and we were talking about how women versus men act, and how men have all of this confidence that's just like oozing out of them, even though, again, we've worked with them and we're like, you're not as like great as you think you are, but like they have this confidence. And like for women, we are always trying to prove ourselves a little more, and again, it's just kind of built into our society at this point. But we were talking about like, why aren't women more confident in like work situations, say you're leading a meeting and stuff? And it's because men aren't questioned as much as women are. Like if men say like, we're going with solution A because A, B, and C, then people are like, oh yes, it's very good.
Well, that's like, that's like for those meetings that I was talking about where I would have to run it, like even if, well, not run it, but like it has to be my team, which would basically just be me and my project manager. And I would literally try so hard to just get him there, not only because I wanted someone there to, I wanted him, one, to keep me reliable and truthful, to make sure that I'm not giving out false information or anything like that. But I noticed that him just being there as a presence in those meetings significantly decreased the amount of questions that I would get. Like I would tell these people in this meeting, like, okay, I need your input on this, this, and this. I need this from you because we're doing this. Like we're doing it this way. This is what I need from you. Give me my answers. What do we need? And him just being there would trigger, or it seemed to trigger like, oh, okay, so we're doing this. Give me, like, they would answer me back. But in the times where he wasn't there in the meetings, I would get questioned. I would be like, okay, but why are we doing it that way? What is it? And it got to the point where I got so frustrated. I literally made like a whole Google sheet of like FAQs of like, here's what we're doing it because of this. Here's another doc. Here's another, like, here's all the frequently asked questions. Here's all the links to all the things I know you're going to ask me to support why we have made these decisions. And I just would have to, it was always like the first thing they would come, like I would explain my spiel and be like, okay, we're doing this. And they're like, okay, but why? And I would just send them the link and I'm like, here's all the info that you're going to ask me already. Because they would, like you said, it's just a lot of questions. And in some ways I do get it. Like, yeah, we want to make sure we're doing the right thing. I get the questions, but I did notice significantly him just being there seemed to give me a supportive authority of just like, oh, okay, we're going to do this.
Yeah. And it's very prevalent when, you know, women, at least from my point of view, my experience, whenever women are leading the meetings, there are so many more questions, so many more pushbacks. And I think I don't know why, it feels like they think that they can steamroll us more than a male counterpart. But yeah, and it's like every single time a woman gets questioned so much, like kind of berated, like a few questions here and there, again, fine, whatever. But when you're continuously berated with all of these questions, it chips away at your confidence.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why a lot of women struggle with confidence more than men do. Because for some reason, men in society, they're just like, oh, what's up, sport? What's up, champ? Like, whatever. Yeah. Like, you're killing it, boss. Like, whatever. Yeah. And then women, they're just like, I don't even know. Like, we don't have the same, I guess, support or feedback, I guess. And so it's like the guys will just keep getting what is it?
Positive feedback.
Reassured of themselves. Whereas women don't get that. And so it's just like the vast difference in confidence levels that you'll see. And I think there was like a study done to where if you keep acting confident and acting as if, then eventually you'll believe that. Like it was similar to what you were saying before. Like, and so I think a lot of guys do that, where they're just like, I'm the best ever, and so then they believe it. They eventually believe it. And I think that women need to start doing that more too.
For sure, we need to be more aggressive with our own inner dialogue, I think. To just support yourselves.
Yeah, support each other. Support other women. Women support women.
Yeah.
That's what we need. Yeah.
And like going back to your thing about like having confidence and just being able to go get it. There was this stat that I saw at some point, but I'm not, now I'm not going to be able to quote it correctly. But basically, like when it comes to, you have a job application, right? And then it tells you, okay, we're looking for these qualifications. Women will not apply to a job posting if they don't meet 100. Statistically, more often than not, women will not apply for the job if they do not meet 100% of the requirements, right? But then for men, they will, statistically proven for whatever reasons, if they meet at least a certain majority, I think 60 was the rough percentage of the requirements, they'll just apply it anyways. And it's one of those like, just shoot your shot, blind confidence, I don't know what it is, like overall confidence, faking it till you make it, their version of manifesting, I don't know what it is, but they will believe, they're like, I can get this, I deserve this job, apply for it anyways. Women will just pull themselves out of the narrative because they feel like they don't belong, I don't meet all these requirements, so I don't deserve this job, I can't get this job, whatever it is.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's ingrained in us from like a really young age.
No, 100%.
Yeah, like even, I mean, I guess like what I was saying before, the adjectives that are used to describe women versus men, like if women can be aggressive, but guys will be assertive. Right. Like women are bossy, but like guys are just like managerial, have like CEO potential. Like I don't get where the disconnect is. Because
they feminize us. They expect us to be just soft, gentle, like submissive to the patriarchy. And anytime we push against that, it's automatically met with a negative response and outlook.
Yeah. And it's just crazy. And like the women who are now getting more aggressive with like their feminist outlooks in that way, they're like, oh, this is misandry and like all this stuff. I'm like, there's literally no way, it's not possible to have misandry in a patriarchal society.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Do you want to explain what misandry is to like, those who don't know what it is?
It's opposite of misogyny.
Yeah.
So misogynistic thinking is basically the society we live in, patriarchal, men dominant. Misogynistic men have this kind of hatred or prejudice against women. They expect them to act a certain way, be more demure, things like that.
Yeah.
And so misandry is basically the opposite of that, where women are holding men to specific standards or acting like they're of lower status to women in comparison. So like women are better than men. And it's like, it's the same thing when we're asking for equal rights and equal pay. It's like, oh, this is horrendous. It's like, no, we're just trying to be equals. We're not trying to be better.
We're not trying to take anything away from you. We're just trying to catch up. Like,
and the fact that you're getting very offended by it means it applies to you. So, but that could be a whole nother episode, honestly. But yeah, I don't know. I
don't know where I'm going with this.
I did read somewhere, so cut back in. I read somewhere too that imposter syndrome actually affects people of like that hold themselves. How do I say this correctly? It affects people who have already had higher achievements than average. So like if you were, say, in high school in the special program,
I was gonna say, is this like a gifted and talented thing? Okay, gotcha.
It's more prevalent in those people than it is of people who are just like in the regular math classes or whatever.
I do totally believe that.
Yeah. And so it's like being your own tiger mom. I was, you know, like when in high school people would say, oh, I have a tiger mom.
No.
You don't know?
No.
You don't know what a tiger mom is?
No, what's that?
Listen, I'm Asian, so I can say this. Tiger moms are basically, at least where I came from in California, Asian parents who hold their kids to like a perfect standard. So they have to get 4.0s. They have to be the best in everything. Okay. They have to be part of every single club. They have to be the president of the debate, like whatever. Right. Like they have to be the best in everything. So that's what a tiger parent is, a tiger mom.
Okay, so a tiger mom is the parent holding that standard though.
Yeah.
Okay, got you.
And then the child is just like drowning.
Yeah, essentially.
But imposter syndrome is just like being your own tiger parent.
Okay, yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I think the reason, maybe that's the psychology of like why it is the way that it is. I think the whole reason, or where logic, god damn, I can't talk.
This is the beauty of editing.
Trying again. I think where I see validity in that stat is when you are performing higher, like, and I think we've talked about this in the school episode. You know, like when you were in the gifted and talented programs, like everyone was telling you, oh, maybe it's the downside of that, I don't know, but like people were telling you, oh, you're gifted and talented, you're like performing at this, you're smarter than a normal third grader, you're like all these great things, and now you're thinking, okay, so I am smarter than most third graders, so I have to prove I'm smarter than most third graders. So I don't know where I was gonna go with that.
It's kind of like I'm smarter than most third graders until when you all of a sudden aren't.
Yeah.
Then you're like, oh shit, I've now ruined my reputation that everyone else sees me at this level, and I like dipped here.
Yeah.
And so it's like it starts the cycle of like.
But is that imposter syndrome really? Because it's like, if you're having that conversation, it's not even an internal anymore, it's external, because other people are telling you, oh, you're smarter. Well, I don't know.
It feeds into your mental whatever anyway.
That's true.
Because, I don't know, you start to believe it. If enough people tell you, you believe it.
Right.
And then if you don't feel it, then it's like, well, they see me as this, but I'm not that.
Yeah, that's where it becomes a detrimental self-dialogue. That's okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Dude, yeah. And at some point, okay, gifted and talent, now we're going into school things. I still don't understand the gifted and talented programs, man. Like, how is most of us in gifted and talented? Like, what?
I don't know.
Anyways, a whole different thing.
Yeah. But any other things on imposter syndrome. I feel like we touched on a lot of it.
Yeah.
Imposter syndrome is loosely defined as doubting your abilities and feeling like a fraud. It disproportionately affects high-achieving people who find it difficult to accept their accomplishments. Many question whether they're deserving of accolades. Then they also have this imposter syndrome cycle where, God, these fonts are hard to read. Girl, I'm getting old.
No, I think you've just always been blind.
That's true. A new project or task. Stage 1. Stage 2 is anxiety, procrastination, or over preparation. Stage 3, project completion, a brief relief and sense of accomplishment. Stage 4, rationalization. I was lucky. Somebody else would have done the better job.
Yeah.
Stage 5, increased self-doubt, anxiety, feeling like a fraud. So that is the imposter syndrome cycle.
Yeah.
Which does make sense. I actually never realized that over preparation could be part of imposter syndrome.
Yeah. I was more focused on I think it was the 4th step you said, where it was the brief sense of relief, and then immediately after the regret of like, oh, someone else deserves this more, someone else should get this. Mm-hmm. And that actually makes more sense of why when I first started my job, they talked about it so much. And I didn't put it together till right now that that's why they were talking about it. It's like, okay, you've earned the job, you have the job. Mm-hmm. And be thankful for the opportunity, but not to the point where it becomes detrimental. Mm-hmm. And I think that's more what they were trying to push. But because we were using the word imposter syndrome so much, I was just like, okay, whatever, like that.
Yeah.
And I didn't recognize.
It doesn't encompass that part.
Yeah.
Like by the name.
Right. Yeah. You don't think about it that way.
Yeah.
So this all makes sense now.
Yeah.
We're about 3 years late. But it makes sense. Oh my God. I'm about to make my 3-year anniversary this month.
Ooh.
Wild.
Yeah.
That's going to start an identity crisis and an imposter syndrome in a little bit. We'll get into that.
Yeah. Again, it's a cycle. It's never ending.
Going back to my 3 years, like I think that's also why I've been noticing the more I'm working at the company and I'm getting these pushbacks for my promotional cycles because of in general, it starts feeding, like you said, that negative dialogue, especially as I see people who started my program with me, like moving up on the ladder. I'm like, okay, well, it feeds that negative dialogue. Okay, did I not deserve this opportunity because they're moving up on the ladder? They're going up, like they obviously belong here because they've even reached the next step, and I'm still here on that first step, despite being 3 years in, and da-da-da-da-da. And then when I'm having a better mental health day, I'll give myself the grace of, okay, but you've switched positions like four times now. 4 times. That's not common to do. And it was part of it's because of my program and other like technically 5 times. Anyways, way more than most people do within 3 years. And that lack of stability makes it hard for you to, when I'm having a bad imposter day, I'll like compare myself to my friends, coworkers, people who I started my program with, and I see them like moving up, getting to the next step, and I'm like, yeah, they do deserve this opportunity. I remember them when we started the program together. Like I've seen their work. I know how capable they are of people, and I, like you kind of said earlier, like hold them to this golden standard. And then I'm like, well, I'm still kind of relatively at the same position despite being 3 years in now almost. And that's, as I get closer and closer to that 3 year, I'm like, why aren't you moving up, Kristen? Usually it's the average to jump to the next position is like, I think 1.5 to 4 years is the average. And it's like, why haven't you done that yet? But then when I'm having a better mental health day and a less imposter syndrome day, I'm like, okay, look at a bigger picture. There's so many more qualifiers. you are worthy of it, and there are other qualifiers that you're ignoring when I'm having those imposter syndromes. Like, I've switched positions, I've switched teams completely, which it's not starting over, but like in the eyes of the people who are trying to promote me, because it's almost like starting over. They have my written profile of like all the things I've done, but they haven't seen the quality of my work, so it's kind of like a start over at least 4 or 5 times now. I technically, this level that I'm trying to promote out of, I technically didn't start it until a year in because of the contract work that I had with the company beforehand. So that first year like counts, but it also doesn't because I wasn't put on that promotional cycle yet. It was meant to be a 1-year thing. They weren't looking at me promotionally because it was supposed to be a 1-year contract. Okay, so that doesn't count. So now I'm only about to enter year 2 when the lowest is 1.5 years. So it's like I'm not really off of the track if you look at it that way, blah, blah. Like, there's a lot of other qualifiers that make what I view on my bad imposter syndrome days like, wow, you're doing shitty. Like, you're not reaching, you're not comparing to other people, you're not doing it based on the stats and like where you're supposed to be on the ladder, you're not here where you should be, you're not performing, Kristen. And then when I think about all these other existential factors that come into like where I've gotten to now and my position, I'm like, I'm not doing that bad. Like, it makes sense where I'm at. I'm doing okay. I'm doing the thing. I'm still gonna have imposter syndromes, but like, at least for that reason of like promotional things, like I'm still doing okay. Like, just calm down. And I have to remind myself that, so like I feel like every other day. And it's even harder when I have like those talks with my manager now, which I'm so glad I've transferred to my team now. I'm really thankful that my manager is a woman, because she also understands the struggle. And it's been I think with this new, not because she's a woman, totally just independently, I think the team culture has a more positive role towards that promotional thing. And I've explained my goals to her, where she's like coming in with this okay, how do we get you there type of mentality, whereas before it was just like having those check-ins with your manager, which I feel like were the gauge of, can be a root for your imposter syndrome. I think like how your manager views you, if they're giving you, like you said, like a lot of positive feedback, you're like, okay, I'm doing good, I'm doing all right, everything's good. And if they're not giving you positive feedback or even a lot of feedback, then you're like, ah, shit. And then you start having that self-doubt. So like, whereas before I've had managers who might have been a little, not hands-on, but like I wasn't getting like all the positive feedback that I might have needed.
Yeah.
Now having a manager where she's like, okay, what do we need to do to get you to that next step? And having someone who's like driven in your career as well is like, it helps abate and negate the negative feedback I hear myself.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. I totally agree with that. Having someone in your corner who's also trying to fight for you is like a huge game changer. And yeah, I think in our work, tech, male dominated, again, it's just the imposter syndrome is already built in before you even get started. And I mean, like, for example, I mean, I've recently, been feeling a lot of imposter syndrome at my job. Similar to you, promotion cycles are in the works, are in like the very near future in the next couple of months. And I think there's also the times that I feel it at work when you're working one-on-one with a person who's so high level. And so it's like, sometimes you're putting your best foot forward, saying like, this is what I've done, this is the presentation, blah, 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 this is the code. And then they can just improve it in a second.
Oh, that's the worst.
And then you're like, well, fuck me then. Like, I just spent like hours doing this and you got it done in 2 seconds. Like, why was I even here? Like, I feel like I wasted time and money and like, and so like getting down on yourself on that. I feel like that happens to me so much.
No, that's so true, dude.
Yeah, like, and there was one project I was on where it was all women, hey, but like it was in a area that I was not familiar with. Like I'm very technical in the sense of all my projects, I'm a coder.
Yeah.
And this one project, they're like, you're gonna be a business analyst, da, 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 da. And I was like, who?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing? Like, you're basically gonna be like writing out all these like step-by-step guides and things like that. And I'm not very eloquent with my words when typing. I'm like,
That's
this.
You said with typing. I was gonna say she's not eloquent. That's why she has a podcast.
Exactly. Basically, it's like we had to give them huge amounts of documents and like with very detailed steps, and like it's supposed to sound nice and professional.
Right.
Like, and I'm like, step 1, this, step 2, that, and like wasn't great. And I knew it, but I also didn't know how to make it better.
Yeah, like what would be the, like, how would you improve this? What
Yeah.
would be the alternative?
And so, yeah, so I think that's kind of falls into that like step 2 of like trying to over preparate. Is that a word? Oh my God, is that a word?
It's, fuck. No, but like now you.
I don't think that's a word.
I don't think so either.
Over prepare.
Yes. That's definitely the word you were trying to say, for sure.
We'll call Webster later.
Over preparate. How would you define that, Claire?
Over preparing. You're over preparing. Over preparate. Done deal. Nailed it. Moving on.
Yeah, keep it going. Keep it going. What else?
That falls into the category of over preparing and like trying
You're
to.
going to use over preparate instead of over prepare for the rest of your life now.
I know. It's going to be horrible. I'm going to say it whilst hosting a meeting at work.
I hope you do, and then someone expressos you. Excuse me. What?
I have a question. You're wrong. I'll just be like, that isn't the question.
Yes.
Answer, okay. Oh my gosh.
Anyways.
I don't even know what I was saying.
Over prepare. Eloquence. Over preparing.
Over preparing.
Your documents.
Yes. It falls into step 2 of over preparing, and then having, that sync with the other girls on my team saying like, okay, like I need a quality assurance on this, before we show it to our client, before the demos.
Right. Makes
sense. And then they're just like, delete everything you had, put this shit in instead.
Wait. Do you do it in a doc too, where like you can see everyone? Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Because you can see them editing, them suggesting. You can see them clear your whole line of.
Literally, my manager, love her. She's amazing, very smart woman. She would literally be like, no, and like just change the whole thing, and then it's like. It's kind of crushing. You're like, well, and then it goes, I feel like it skips over the 3rd step and just goes straight into someone could have done that better. Yeah. And she just did. Yeah. And like, it feels super, super crappy for sure.
No,
and
for sure.
I think that project out of everything was like, I don't think I should be a consultant. Like, I don't think I'm at the level that they expect me to be at. Obviously, if none of the work that I'm putting forward or the work I am putting forward just isn't up to the standard, isn't up to snuff. Yeah. And so I was like, well, shit. So like coming out of that project, I was like, girl, I don't even know what's going on.
Yeah.
But then going back into a project after that was very technical and very like hands-on coding. Like it helped me get some confidence back, and I was.
You're back in your element.
Yeah, back in my element, and working with managers and technical leads who would like literally sit down and help me and say, this is why we need to improve this part of the code, and like sit down and do those code reviews and stuff, rather than just being like, nah. So dude, yeah, it's a weird place to be in the work environment, because like you're supposed to be super confident, you got the job, you're deserving of the job, but then you're just like, was it just timing? Was I just here at the right time?
Like negative feedback loop again, like exactly. You're like, and then it's like, oh, what was one of the things that they used to tell us is like pretty common for imposters? Oh, like you said, was it timing? Did I get lucky? And then there's this kind of feeling of like you fooled them, like oh, like I tricked them into giving me the job, like somehow some way I've pulled the wool over their eyes to give me the job, and now I'm gonna be found out. And I think that's where the fake noodle imposter comes from, because you're like, I'm not who they think I am. And it becomes you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop, almost, of like them finding you out, even though it's like when you're having a good mental health day, you're like, I am this
I'm a boss ass bitch. I got this.
Exactly. You're like, I am a coder, I am like a technical person, I am a software engineer, I am all these things. But when you're not having a good day, you're like, they're gonna find out that I don't do these things. But of course you do. Of course you are that person, because you've been doing the things.
Yeah.
So definitionally you are. But
yeah, and like now too, going into our 3rd years on the job, right? I think that now when new people come in and like we're we're now the advisor. We're supposed to be advisors for these new kids coming in, and I'm like, I still like, and sometimes like my advisees will be working on technical things that I haven't touched in my 3 years at the company, because I've been, working on things that they've never touched. Yeah. But it's like when they ask me and I'm like, I don't know. Like, I feel like so stupid. Like, I've been here 3 years. I should know. Yeah. I've been here 3 years. I still need to ask these questions. Like, I feel embarrassed to ask these questions, because I feel like I should know.
Don't even. So there was this email going around recently for signing up to be a mentor for the program that I was in, and one of the they have like different roles, different ways you can help out, right? And one of them was to be like a code reviewer. That's not important here, but I was like, oh, I could do that. It's like it was a low commitment, a couple hours a week. Sure, like I can do that to give back. I can do that. And then immediately after I had the thought of like, oh, I should apply for that, I was like, girl, can you? Because I was on the project that I was doing, like literally happened to be that day. Coding was rough, like things weren't hitting the way they normally do, and I started to doubt myself. So then thinking, oh God, I can't even do it for myself, let alone am I going to be in charge of someone else needing to do it, to not only guide how they do their code and like the review process that's going to happen there. I'm going to be in charge of giving them the green light to like apply their code into the system. And I don't want that responsibility, because I'm not even sure of myself, let alone
like, what if I fuck everything up? What if everything breaks? And it's gonna be on me, and like like I'm already scared
when I'm applying the code, but at least I know, okay, other people are reviewing my code and they know what they're doing. They have all the knowledge to check to make sure that I don't totally fuck up. But now if I'm gonna be the one who's giving the green light to people, I'm like, no, I can't do that. No.
But meanwhile, they're probably like, oh, but I'm feeling this way, but Kristen is gonna be like the sanity check of like, okay, it looks good. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's so weird. It's like everyone has imposter syndrome, and there's such a lack of communication between each other, which I think also feeds into the imposter syndrome.
No, it absolutely does.
Yeah, because like if we were coworkers, right, and I was like not feeling too confident about this, but I was like, oh, like not gonna communicate that I don't feel confident about it, because if I do, then I feel like it would make me look bad.
And it's like, it feels like you're exposing yourself. You're like, I'm exposing that I'm the imposter if I tell you that I'm feeling this way.
Yeah.
Like, I'm telling you that I'm not who I say I am. So that, I think that's why we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to be found out. We can't even talk about it, because then we're doing all the work for them. They don't need to find out, because we're telling them that we're this way.
Yeah. And it's so stupid now that like we're saying all this out loud, and it's like a similar concept for the social media thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, only show the highlights, never show the lowlights.
Yeah.
My life is absolutely perfect. No, it's not.
No.
Everything is fake.
Yeah.
And like, even I mean, we're being kind of vulnerable on here, but like even this is like, we're set up in a a way to talk about this stuff. Whereas, like, I don't know, it's just like everything is
even though
not
we try to
as
make
it appears.
even though we try to make it like intimate and a thing, and this is how we do have conversations. Like, it's definitely different how we have conversations here on this podcast versus like 10 minutes ago when we started prepping for this talk and like having this conversation while you and I were eating dinner like 5 feet that way.
Yeah,
like
literally.
It's different. Even though we might be saying literally the same things, it's still a little different. It's in a different light and context.
Yeah, we now have a camera, we have mics, we aren't stuffing our face with chicken and rice. Like, it's not
it was good.
We'll
tell you, but that was good.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I think it's just remembering that we have to give ourselves grace, and that everyone else is also feeling or can feel what you're feeling in the moment. So if you're
so like involved with yourself too, like when you're in the imposter syndrome, you're looking at other people, but like you said before, like just for a standard, you're not thinking that they could also possibly be vulnerable and also have the same doubts.
Yeah.
And that's what's tough.
Yeah. It's very like,
you don't look past yourself.
You're in your own little bubble, your own little world. And it's like, you have to remember to like pop the bubble.
Yeah.
Everything will be fine.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Craziness.
My brain's trying to wrap around all the things we've talked about, and if we've hit everything on the head.
I think so. We've talked about imposter syndrome. We've talked about confidence, where to get it, act as if.
Or where you pretend you have it.
Yeah. Pretend you have it, and eventually your brain will register at that as true confidence.
Supposedly. So I've been told.
Yeah, so science says.
The maths.
Yeah, comparison can be very painful. So getting out of that, how comparison and imposter syndrome are basically best friends. They like to hang out together. So yeah, but I guess like takeaways is don't be too hard on yourself. Remember, when you are feeling imposter syndrome, other people are feeling it too.
Yeah.
Try to remember to look past yourself and give yourself grace. Know that you are deserving of whatever place you are in right now. Thank you so much for listening to the Midnight Memo. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found some sanctuary and confidence in yourself.
Yeah.
By understanding that other people also go through.
I hope it was soothing just hearing other people talk about their imposter syndromes.
Yeah.
And
if all of us are imposters, then are we really imposters?
Yes.
Well, never mind.
I'm thinking of that grammatically because it's like, oh, if all of us are people, are we all people? Like, if you just change it to a different noun. Or is that an adjective? Fuck, I didn't do English. Anyways, not the point here.
A people is a person, place, or thing.
Yeah. No, I meant imposter. Like, is that...
Oh.
I guess imposter, you're...
It's a thing. A person.
Right? Mm-hmm. Anyways, this is not an English lesson.
Anyway, scratch all of that out. Thank you so much for listening to the Midnight Memo. I hope you all enjoyed it.
Yeah.
If you did, please support and follow us on all of our social medias. That will be on the screen or in the description box below. Yeah, it would really...
On the screen if you are watching us currently as it is on Spotify video podcasts.
Yes. Which, again, we highly suggest you do, because then you actually get to see our reactions and it'll align more, I guess, to the audio. Yeah. For certain parts. But
so we've been told.
Yeah. Anyway, if you have any questions for us, reach out to us at themidnightmemo@gmail.com. Follow us on Spotify. Leave us a review. That would really help us. See what... Only if it's positive, though. Because we're sensitive.
We have imposter syndrome. Don't be mean.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what else, but yeah, I think that's it. Thanks again so much for listening to this episode, and we can't wait to bring you another episode next week on Tuesday. Bye.
Bye.